Now we're going to start the Sharpie shoe drawings. You can kind of see this is where we're heading. Black Sharpie markers will be provided for you. If you want to go and experiment or do with different colors like these students did, you have to bring in your own. You don't have to share with anybody else, but if you want any other color than black, that is your responsibility. Otherwise, you will do it in black. If you keep forgetting to bring in your color, then you go to black. There's no extra time because, oh, I keep forgetting. Well, now you get to choose black. So keep that in mind. All right, Sharpie shoe drawing. My job for this project is to create a contour line drawing. So remember, contour lines are the outside lines. They contour whatever it is you're drawing. It's the outside line of it, okay? Contour line shoe still life drawing by using a Sharpie marker and a plaid patterns in order to create the shoe's textures and designs. You're going to plan out what patterns you're going to use before you start. By the end of the project, I will have created an observational. So again, you're looking at the object and drawing it on your paper. Contour shoe still life drawing through the skillful use of the Sharpie marker, patterns, correct perspective, proportion, and the shading techniques, cross-hatching and stippling. We did these before in our bellwork drawings, but remember, cross-hatching is when the lines go this way and they cross each other this way. Remember, the further the lines get from each other, the lighter the value appears. The other one is stippling. Remember, stippling are dots. Now with the Sharpie, you don't have to pound it into the table because all you're going to do is ruin the tip of your marker. Don't do it. Just little dots. Remember, the closer the dots are together, the darker the value will appear. The further the dots get, the lighter the value will appear. So you're going to use those for shading. The materials. We're going to use a number 2 pencil, Sharpie marker, shoes. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Pattern ideas, stippling and cross-hatching techniques handout, which will be this. 12 by 18 white drawing paper, the grading rubric, practice paper if you need to, erasers for the pencil. All right. In the definitions, we have the cross-hatching, which are the cross lines, stippling. A pattern is a two-dimensional decorative visual repetition of repeating colors, lines, shapes, forms. You're going to be doing shapes and lines, really. Contour line, a line that defines the edges or surface ridges of an object. A contour line drawing is a drawing in which only contour lines are used to represent the subject matter. So you're going to first just do a contour line drawing of the shoes. Still life, inanimate objects grouped together for drawing. Proportion, size relationships, one to the other. Foreshortening is to shorten in detail in a drawing or painting so it appears to have depth. So if you don't see the whole shoe, you don't draw the whole shoe. You draw what you see. If something is coming at you, it's called foreshortening. So if you have a hand coming at you, you're not going to see the whole arm. You're going to see the hand, and then you might see the elbow up to the shoulder. It's taking away some of the details that you see. And then perspective, creating the illusion of depth. Helpful hints. Explore textures, real and simulated. Remember, real textures are something you can feel, kind of like the wall has a real texture to it. Okay, you can actually feel that. Your chairs have a real texture to them. That's real. Simulated is like our tabletops, the wood grain. It looks like wood grain, but it doesn't feel like wood. You know, you're not going to run your finger across it and get a splinter. So this is simulated, this is real. Be creative and inventive. You're going to need perseverance, persistence, and patience. You're going to need to slow down. You're using marker, you can't erase it. No whiteout because it changes the look of the paper. So you're going to want to slow down and think about what you're doing before you do it, because once the mark is there, you got to work with it and make it work. If you make a mistake, figure out a way so that it doesn't look like a mistake. Because again, the only person who's going to know it was a mistake is you, unless you tell people. Kind of keep in mind you are facing tedious and minuscule work, meaning you're going to be working in tiny areas. Slow down. The textures will combine line, shape, value, and form. No whiteout can be used. All boo-boos and mistakes need to look intentional and part of the original design. Don't just crumple up your paper and throw it out and start all over. Really think about it. Ask your partner, I did a line here and I didn't mean to. What can I do with this line? Maybe you can just start adding more lines to it, or make some parallel lines, and now it looks like you meant to do it and it wasn't a mistake. Because again, the only two people who are going to know are you and the person you tell. Everyone else, if you make it work, they're never going to know. Alright, so the procedures. Pattern ideas handout. You're going to get a handout, and you're going to want to come up with a bunch of different patterns, because you're going to be using these throughout the whole shoe. If you look at all of these, every part of the shoe has a different pattern in it. There's tons of patterns. We have checkers, and here we have like little X's, and we have polka dots, and we have lines. Here we have some flowers. We have big polka dots with little polka dots. We have like zigzags here. We have peace signs. Tons of ideas. Come up with as many as you can, because then you're going to have these ideas to pull from, and you're not going to be sitting there thinking, oh, I don't know what to do next. So you're going to come up with patterns. The stippling and cross-hatching handout. Here, you're going to take your Sharpie, and for hatching lines, remember we did this as well, are just parallel lines. The closer they are, the darker, the further they get, the lighter. Cross-hatching, you're going to practice. Remember, they cross each other. I'm going kind of fast. You guys can take your time while you do this. Cross. And as they move, they get lighter. Stippling, little dots, so you can kind of practice. You barely have to touch the paper. Closer they are together, the darker, the further they get, the lighter. Your choice, you can practice these. Squircling, we didn't really talk about, but you can do it. It's kind of like scribbling and squiggles all together, and it just kind of, it's like a scribbly line. The closer it is, the darker, the further it gets from each other, the lighter the value appears. So in this handout, not only do we have our practice, but you have the answer key. So you can look and see, oh, that's what hatching is. Oh, that's what cross-hatching is, and stippling. So you can kind of see how it looks. There's also handouts in here that show you pictures done in the style. So this whole picture was done with stippling, all dots. And then it kind of shows you where the dots are and how the values are created. Here's one with the cross-hatching. The whole image is done, and again it shows you. And then here we have spheres. This one would be blending if you used a pencil, stippling, cross-hatching, and hatching. So this handout is there to help you remember how to create these things. All right, next one. Everyone takes off a shoe. Yes, you can take off a shoe. You're going to take off a shoe, and you're going to decide as a table the 3 most interesting shoes. Okay? You're going to set up a still life assessment screen. Will help you choose the final setup, but I won't be here to help you. So you can ask Mr. Judge. As a table, you guys can decide. Oh, these are kind of fun shoes. All right, but you only need 3. Stick with 3. You don't want more than that because then it's going to get cluttered. You don't want less than that because then you're not going to have enough. Then what you're going to do, you're going to take your paper and your pencil. Here's my shoe still life set up. And now I'm going to draw it nice and big. A contour line drawing. Now, you guys know I draw big, So I am not going to actually be able to fit the whole thing on here because I draw too big. It just doesn't work. So my shoes are going to kind of come off a little bit. The paper, and then this shoe is kind of up here. This. So here's my contour line drawing. Can you see the line? Okay, I'm going to darken it in a little bit so maybe it's a little bit more clear. You do not darken yours in because that way if you need to erase or you want to change it or whatever, you can. I'm just going to darken mine in so you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay, so here's my contour line drawings. All I did was capture basically the placement and like kind of the direction just with line. Then it says, okay, lightly draw using pencil contour line drawing of the shoes, close to life size as possible. So you don't want these little itty bitty shoes. They're not little itty bitty shoes. You want them nice and big. Fill up the paper. My still life fills up the paper. Your drawing needs to fill up the paper. Draw the seams. So now I'm going to go in and everywhere there's a natural seam. So let me come to this side so you can kind of see. So where my heel is right here, that is a natural seam. This line right here that cuts the sole from the top of the shoe, this is a natural seam. Right here is a natural seam. Where the little buckle part comes over is a natural seam. So all the natural seams that you see in your view, you draw them in because that's what's going to divide up your actual picture. So mine's on the other side, but it's basically just the other side of the shoe. So I'm going to kind of draw those in. And I'm going to include the little detail that is in these shoes are also on the ones that I'm seeing over here. So I'm going to include those in. And this kind of comes down. It kind of goes like this. This goes like this, and then this kind of comes like this. So now I'm starting to draw in those natural seams. Okay, do you see how like this is the side, here's the bottom, here's the side. So I'm kind of drawing in those natural seams that I see in the shoe. And I'm going to do that for all three shoes. Then it says, use pencil to fill up each section with different patterns. So now everywhere, so this section right here, this little part right in here, that has to be its own pattern. This section right here has to be a different pattern. This little area here, different pattern. Everywhere you have a section has to be its own pattern. So that's where this comes in and why you need so many. So it says here, after you divide the shoes into sections, trying to follow the shoe's natural stitch lines, use pencil. You can use pencil first so that you can plan it out. Fill each section with different patterns to create different textures. Get creative and inventive. Number 1, stay away from textures or patterns that are already part of the shoe. Get more inventive than that. Now, if they have a really cool pattern or texture to them, okay, but remember, you can only use patterns, where does, oh, it's coming up, twice throughout the entire piece. So if I like this pattern here, I can only use it 2 times in my entire drawing. Not per shoe, for the entire drawing. So you better decide wisely. Oh, I really like that one, so I'm going to pick this big section here, and then I can repeat it one more time, and then that pattern is done. So you also can only have one pure black space. So let's see if any of them, like right here, that's considered a pure black space. They have it here, they have it here, that's it. They actually did more than one, they did two. One pure white space. This shoe has it, one pure white space, and that's it. So if you have more than one, you're going to be docked points. This person probably lost points when it was graded because they had two dark pure black areas instead of just one. Now this one, if you look, this one, the shoe has the dark space, and then they created the shadow with the dark space. Totally fine because the shadow's not part of the shoes. This one, they did a lot of dark because it was all one area. There weren't any divisions within that section. But if you have more than one, you're going to lose points. All right, patterns must vary across the shoe. You can only repeat a pattern twice in the entire drawing. Shoes must be grounded. So once I'm done, and let's say I've gone in and I've added my patterns. I'm just going to do this one. Okay, I've added my patterns throughout this. Now you look and you see, okay, down here is the values. Your shoes, what I mean by grounded is that they're not floating. Okay, our shoes are sitting on a table. We want it to look like they're on a table. They have shadows. You can use cross hatching too if you want. Where there are shadows, I want to see. So you can see in here the stippling that has the shoes on the table, the stippling that has the shoes here, the stippling that has the shoes on the table. This one was up in the air, so this shadow's down here because we don't have shadows in the air. You can see the stippling. So when it says ground the shoes, it means make it look like it's sitting on something and not floating. All mistakes, boo-boos, must be worked in. Finalize your drawing by erasing all the pencil lines, which is why you want to draw with the pencil lightly. Do not draw as dark as I did. Mine is just so that you can see it. But you're going to want to really draw lightly so that when you erase it, it's easy to erase. And then your signature. When you do a signature, I always do my initials. So I do MG, and then I do the date or the year that I did it in. When I was in high school, I used to spell out my entire name, and oh my gosh, horrible. And then as I got older, I realized and I learned how to sign artwork. So now I just do my initials, and if I did it last year, I'd put 12. Did it this year, actually you guys it'll be January, so you guys would do 14. However you want to, if you do want to sign your full name, that's fine. Let's see where, I'm looking for signatures here. He kind of did it at the bottom. It can be kind of distracting. This student drew their name right here. This one put it in the stippling. They use stipples for their initials. This one, it's around the heel. This one you can kind of see it's down here. So you're going to want to pick a spot. So I would probably do like in here, and I would do MG 14. And now I have a signature. We will go back to this one, but this is the end of this video. This is a two-parter, so watch the second part.